Hey guys, it's Little Sooner Fan Mo here, and I've been wanting to make this video for a while now, to be fair, but I haven't found a solid way to articulate my thoughts, and well, to be frank, I probably still haven't, but right now, and especially with like the whole Rooster Teeth price increase sort of controversy going around, I'm not going to spend this video talking about that per se, but I will send link another video by a YouTuber called Adele Aka. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, right? But he makes really good videos based on these kinds of subjects, and I do recommend you go check him out. Despite his sort of weird production quality, but if you put up with my stuff, then it shouldn't be too bad. As a matter of fact, it should be better. But enough shilling aside. This is sort of my stance with RWBY as of right now, and what can easily be done. I don't know about easily, but what can be done to more or less remedy all that. Now, what I'm about to say doesn't exactly apply to volumes 1 and 2, and maybe even some parts of 3, because most part they're fine. They don't exhibit the problems that volumes 4 through 6, and then most likely 7 will exude, namely just cliche character writing, dull character designs, and ship baiting, essentially. But what can be done, and as a sort of TLDR, RWBY should go to Arc System Works, and I will get into why pretty much right now. So let's go with, say, start of RWBY Volume 4, for example. Or not even Volume 4, probably something like, yeah, Volume 4 sounds close to about right. The biggest problem kind of started around, that era, where it was fine at first. Sun seemed a little stocky towards Blake, and even if it was legitimate stalking, she still kind of overreacted. But you know what? It's fine, whatever. Then the second someone like Illy gets introduced, and then that's just like almost forced lesbian shipping. I mean, there's no better way for me to put that. It's forced. It's forced shipping because we've seen them have a moment in the past that only lasted maybe a grand total of 5 minutes. And then, but you know what? It's fine. She got written out and she got background soon enough anyway. So you know what? It's whatever. But my main problem also comes with the fact they're trying to do sort of woke ships. Rooster Teeth, I mean. With, like I said, you got the whole Illy and Blake thing. But you have them really have, if I can talk English, that'd be great. But, this is unscripted, by the way. I guess I should have mentioned that. But, they've written Sun out at the start of Volume 6 because you gotta have room for shipping with Yang, and let's be real, that's the reason they've written Sun out, so they can have more forced shipping with Yang by the end of Volume 6, which is a whole other can of worms that I'm not gonna really touch upon too much by video's end either. But just sort of they literally, okay, what am I trying to say? They are literally written out a character to be shipped with Blake, just so they can have, well, that being Sun, just so they can have a sort of woke lesbian ship. And that's not super good anything. That's not really a good character sort of, that's forced character development, or I don't know about development, but forced character relations. And let me think. And then you also got things like White Rose, which is probably the strongest for RWBY shipping, to be fair. But that's not really saying much, seeing as not only is it almost on life support, but just about everything else is. So my TLDR is that as of RWBY, as of right now, as of this current moment, Volume 7, there's a small, minute chance that might change, that the whole ship baiting thing might take a backseat by Volume 7's roll around. But I wouldn't get any hopes up for that. But TLDR with with RWBY as of right now, everything's a shit bait. It completely forgoes character writing that makes sense. Like, they literally dismiss someone like Adam for like, well, not even for like a whole volume, but they'll dismiss him for right up until the end of volume 6, and then when he comes around, he's just there. And we get no form of explanation. He's just there, just so Yang and Blake can have a more forced ship moment. That's literally all he shows up for. And then you got the whole like thing with Adam, being a prominent villain, and now he's just gone. He was a prominent villain in like volumes 1 through 2 and 3, even a little bit, but he was killed off pretty nonchalantly, especially if you go with the episode that followed right after his death. Everyone acting perfectly fine, and that's a bit of a problem. But that's more of a discussion of a more in-depth. That's worthy more of an in-depth discussion of RWBY's writing. As of right now, I'm just kind of giving TLDR cliff notes of the series of where it is right now. But now time for what's probably the meat and potatoes of this discussion. Why RWBY itself should go to Arc System Works, at least to make BlazBlue style games where they can be, fighting games like Central Fiction, but they also have their own little side story that doesn't really connect with Rooster Teeth's sort of main canon. And the main reason I believe this is probably the best course for RWBY as of right now is because, like, I'm going to ignore, like, the gameplay aspect for a minute, because that's more of a backseat to the bigger bombshell of how a game developer with very minimal sort of experience with the RWBY IP made a 1 hour long little story. It's a fan fiction, essentially. Let's be fair here. It is a fan fiction. But in that 1 hour sort of special, they have made a episode or a scenario, whatever you want to call it, a thing that understands what RWBY was before shipping took a hold of it, before it tried to become all woke. And what I mean by that is, I'm not going to say it carries on Monty's vision, because I don't think anyone, or like too many people outside of Rooster Teeth, knows what that means. So I'm not going to sit here and say it follows said vision. But what I will say is that it sort of carries that sort of spirit, that sort of characterization. Because if you compared the writing and the characters of that episode to volumes 1 and 2 of the actual show, you will notice like a lot of 101 sort of similarities. You got RWBY being the weapons nerd, Weiss being the sort of formal, trying to be formal but also trying to be friendly sort of Harris, Blake being sort of the antisocial one, not wanting anything to do with anyone, and Yang, being Yang, she just is excited to fight some people. That she's about that thrill seeker lifestyle. And I was actually, and this is a bit of a kind of a side note, but it also plays into what I'm about to say. I was discussing this with a friend earlier, not even earlier, like maybe like a day or two ago, something like that. And he told me, and I actually agree with this, that at least with Yang's case, she represents in Crosstag. Yang represents stuff that we saw in the yellow trailer, her sort of attitude and mentality in the yellow trailer, which is completely gone in like the latest volumes of RWBY. And I agree with that. And I agree that every RWBY character beyond like volume 3, like all the characters from volume 3, maybe most likely it was mostly 4, but every character from that volume onward kind of drops who they are as characters. Like, take a look at RWBY as an example, as from like say volume I don't know, let's say 5, for example, she kind of loses that sort of weapons nerd sort of character trait. She kind of loses that. I mean, she kind of loses that in the transition to the sort of new era that Rooster Teeth's trying to go for with RWBY. And that's not only how you not handle character development, but that's a very lazy way of showing someone being more mature. You don't have character development that takes away part of who the character is. That's like saying if Goku, alright? Goku, once you get to the tournament power arc in Dragon Ball, he gets messed up by Jiren, alright? And instead of being Goku, he's now just more so Vegeta, trying to beat Goku. Like, he just doesn't care about anything. He just wants to win. And that's not how you write a character. That's not how you have a character develop into a different mindset. Now, to be fair, it's not that so much Cross I had to worry about character development in the first place. It's a 1 hour, probably 2 hour long fan fiction, so it doesn't really have to worry about set development. But it still shows a more unified, or not unified, but more deeper, that's great in English, a deeper understanding of what RWBY is. Again, with RWBY being the weapons nerd and everyone acting as they were in their shorts, like in their, like, what is it, like color trailers, like well before, like not even well before, but way back in the day when before RWBY came out, you got all these, you had all these shorts. And that kind of actually plays into another point I'm about to make, is with how Arc System Works is treating RWBY in a gameplay sense, just go off cross tag alone. That being, you got moves taken from the show, such as stuff like, what is it called? RWBY's side pod shot, I believe it's called. It's like her 236B, where she sticks her sight in a gun and shoots rapidly. And then you also got things like her her distortions, and then with like her pedal burst being from the food fight scene, and what's it called? I think it's pedal dance, which is where she spins the sight. That being from the red trailer itself, and that sort of logic applies to all the RWBY characters up to this point in the game. Again, as of this point. We might get more due to the fact that Evo is coming up really shortly, but that's a whole other matter for a whole other day. But but when you got that kind of love and dedication to RWBY, which if you compare it to something like Grim Eclipse, and I'm fully aware that Grim Eclipse started as a fan project first and foremost. Like, I get that, but then the chance the fact that it was bought out by Rooster Teeth at some point, so it had the resources to give RWBY that sort of attention to detail, where you can have moves from the show or like move references to the show, but they just didn't do that. Instead, they just had a sort of tasteless version of something like Bayonetta or Dynasty Warriors. They have a more tasteless version of that. I get it's their first game. Like, I get that, but that was a horrible first impression. But compare that to, again, the Crosshair, where, again, you have the character moves represented so accurately to the show, and things like semblances being almost one-for-one translated perfectly. Like, you got RWBY's sort of speed, rose petal burst that she has going on. Weiss has her glyphs. Blake has most, if not all, her important sort of shadow clone abilities, and Yang has a detail where she activates her semblance when she gets into like red health, which I believe is like around 30% of a character's health is remaining. She activates her semblance and even has I Burn playing in the background that overrides the music that's playing. And on top of them giving, if you put all the like Team RWBY in the match together, they have their own special little intro. Like that's the kind of thing that I to this day have not really seen any company give this franchise. Not Rooster Teeth. Uh, I know there's a Chinese RWBY mobile game. I don't know if it has a Western release, but it's a 2D sort of beat 'em up game. I believe that's on mobile. And I believe again it's only in Chinese, but I could be wrong. Someone may want to point me in the direction of if I'm wrong on that. But and I think there's also like a little Knights Chronicles sort of crossover where you get like a RWBY character for free if you get that game. But my bottom line is that of all the third parties I've seen RWBY go to, Arc System Works probably did RWBY the most justice. Between their dedicated story mode writing, their move references, their semblances being represented pretty well. And I haven't even thought about music, but you also got their music, which is a mashup of all their proper songs, and with Weiss, because I think I remember hers almost perfectly. It goes from A Mirror Mirror to It's My Turn to I believe it's called This Life Is Mine. It's a song that plays when she's fighting the Grim Wasp while she was flying on that plane in Volume 5. But you get little mashups like that, and I think them choosing the songs they do is almost perfect because it kind of let me think. What am I trying to say? It kind of shows off who the characters are at certain points in the series, say with Yang's Mix, for example. The first half being actually for some reason the first half is I honestly forgot the name of it, but it's that song that played at the end of Volume 4 as its song. And then it goes into Iburn. I'm not sure why they put it in that order, but it kind of... My point is that it summarizes kind of both eras of who the characters were. If I may go back to my wife's example, you got her being Mirror Mirror, which is kind of her self-doubting herself by the start of the show, and then it goes into It's My Turn, which is sort of her calling herself out and sort of trying to break free of things like her dad's control, and then you got This Life Is Mine, which I'm pretty sure is what it's called, which is sort of her symbolizing her escaping from her dad's control. So bottom line, and Blake's is also pretty interesting, but my bottom line is that the songs they chose for these characters' mixes kind of fits who they are and how they've kind of changed since how RWBY started. So TLDR, how Arc System Works handled RWBY, despite Cross-Type being their sort of first time out with the franchise, is probably the best thing that can happen to RWBY, and as of right now, and the best thing to happen to RWBY long term is that at the very least, Rooster Teeth gives the IP to Arc System Works to keep making games and eventually sort of stories based, non-canon stories based on the show, based on the IP. It's again, I might be sounding like a broken record, but TLDR, Rooster Teeth does not know how to make characters good. They just know how to make shipping happen. And being real, that's the only thing RWBY really exists for. But if you compare it to something like Crosstag's episode RWBY, which I highly implore anyone that skipped over, I don't know about skipped, but kind of skimmed over Crosstag, and if you're a RWBY fan, and like I said, you skimmed over Crosstag, you need to go back and kind of give that episode a look. Yeah, I'm not saying you have to, play the game constantly like I know I do, but you can at least sort of reskim the episode and give her a second look because it is worthy of another look. And ultimately, what saddens me about this topic is that I've seen bare minimal RWBY channels actually addressing this. addressing RWBY's potential sort of savior. They just kind of talk about, how bad Rooster Teeth is messing up, which isn't a bad thing. Like, calling out a creator that's messing up is not a bad thing. I want to make that clear. But no one's bringing up much of a solution or a potential solution to, what can make RWBY good. Like, they just want to harp on Rooster Teeth and Miles and Carrie, which I'm not saying it's unwarranted, because based on the writing habits of their latest, volume, seasons, whatever, it's warranted. I'm not denying that. But I've seen a lot of people overlook this potentially very easy solution to this matter. And Arc System Works is quite possibly RWBY's only savior at this point, given that Rooster Teeth only really keeps it alive for shipping. And I am aware that they are canceling, not canceling, but kind of putting off other things like Genlock, Nomad of Nowhere, and even RWBY Chibi for some reason. And even getting some new writers and delaying the show. I get that, but even with all that, I still have very little hope that Volume 7 will be anything short of a train wreck. Or anything above a train wreck. And that also kind of pours into, what they're doing recently with, their whole price increase and their whole treatment of Vic, which, I'm not really going to talk about in this video. I'm going to instead, again, give you a little heads up to someone else who made the video. I'm going to put that down in the description, because their video, being, him being Adel Aka, I think kind of makes an excellent sort of review of the whole situation, and giving his own personal TLDR of the whole fiasco. So his stuff I do recommend watching, but my sort of TLDR on RWBY and where it is and where it can be fixed, it needs to go to Arc System Works, and I will take that to my grave, because they've made an hour-long sort of non-canon special and turn it into something that stays truer to the show than Rooster Teeth's own adaptation. And I know what some people might bring up. They'll bring up things like, in the dedicated RWBY chat, they said involvement with Rooster Teeth, close involvement with Rooster Teeth from making RWBY characters. That to me only really means that Rooster Teeth just providing the voice lines for the the characters. That's probably about where it ends, considering that Rooster Teeth doesn't really want to acknowledge cross-tag anything beyond that. I don't think I think it's even pulled down from their store at this point, so that's especially, showing that they just don't really care. I mean, even if they did, they wouldn't be making too much off it anyway. But my point is, RWBY needs to go to someone else. And if you ask me, it's Arc System Works, Toshi Michimura, Team Blue, whatever you want to call them. But it just needs to go to someone else, because Rooster Teeth has proven that they cannot do this show any form of justice. That's what they've proven, in my eyes anyway. And someone like Arc can. So that's sort of my TLDR. I feel like I had another point, but I don't remember it. Again, this is completely non-scripted, because I don't want this to seem forced. I want this video to kind of give the feeling of it's coming from the heart, and having a script for something like this kind of defeats that purpose, in my opinion. But that's about it. I really can't think of anything else. So TLDR, RWBY needs to go to Arc at least to make games. I'm really interested to see what you guys would say, what your personal opinions are on this matter, what Rooster Teeth can do, assuming, selling, depending on whether or not selling the IP is in question or not. But, this is actually a whole other sort of side topic. I honestly think that if RWBY were to stay with Rooster Teeth, like they're not selling it, they at the very least get it under some other writers. Someone that isn't trying to be woke, because that's what Mouse Carrier are doing. But yeah, that's sort of my take on where RWBY is. It's a train wreck at this point. It's a shipping train wreck. But Arc System Works could potentially save it if Rooster Teeth is willing to sort of make the jump in selling them the IP, at least in the games. Like Blaze Blue styled or even Guilty Gear styled games based on the IP. That's the best thing that can happen to RWBY at this point, if you ask me. Anyway, I know people will say different things, but that's me. Alright. But I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say on this matter, because I actually know there's probably like a lot of different ways, but again, this is my perspective of the matter. But, let me know what you guys think, if you even made it through this long to begin with. But, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in to my rant of a show that I want to love, but I just can't based on who's at the helm of it at the moment. So, thank you guys for staying tuned this long. And if you guys want me to do more of these videos, I probably will, because this is actually kind of a fun thing for me to make. So just go ahead and let me know, and I will see you guys in another video, whether or not that'll be a record, upload, a live gameplay, or something like that. I don't know, I'll probably come up with something before too long to make a video about. But yeah, if this video is good, this style of video is good, let me know, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye.